Today on the Transplant Helper, we're going to be talking about your exercise program post-transplant. What possibly can you do, should you do, and certainly how do you keep yourself motivated to set up an exercise program that really will benefit you in the long run? Stay tuned.
Hit the subscribe button and the bell notification to become part of the Transplant Helper community.
Hey folks, welcome back to the Transplant Helper again today. My name is Jim Merle, and yes, today we're talking about exercise post-organ transplant. We're going to talk about the possibilities, the probabilities, and hopefully the potential that you have in front of you to really do this thing right, because I certainly want you to live the best life possible as a transplant patient. Now, with that being said, before we go any further, let me, as a disclaimer, say very clearly, I am not a medical doctor, okay? I'm not a medical doctor, so please do not take my advice that I give you today about exercise as being something a medical doctor would say, because I'm not that. I'm simply someone just like you who has been there and is currently doing that. Notice I didn't say done that. We don't want to be done, but someone who is currently doing that. That's who I am. So with that being said, let me start out with a couple of different things you need to consider before you ever get started in this. Number one, you need to consult your doctor. Before beginning any exercise program, for that matter, stopping or starting one, you need to consult your doctor. Just have a sit down with your team just for a moment. Maybe they've got a specialized group as a part of your team who are exercise physiologists, or that's just a big word I don't really understand, but who know about exercise, who know about rehabilitation. Sit down with them. Ask them, what is it that I should be doing? What are your recommendations? What is the plan that is typical for someone who's had a transplant like mine? Whether you're a heart, lung, liver, kidney, pancreas patient, for all of us, those exercise programs may be pretty individualized. They may be different. So you need to consult your doctor about that and make sure it's safe for you to begin. Number two, right up under that, right with that team, also consider your limitations, okay? You may have some special limitation that's been placed on you or will be placed on you by your team that makes things safe. For me, I had an open heart transplant surgery, so I had sternal precautions in the beginning. I think it was probably for 6 weeks. I couldn't even take a shower or do anything at all. Strenuous, couldn't lift hardly anything because of that actual skin trying to heal. I think it was about 12 weeks out, or a little bit farther, before I could actually start lifting anything. And then probably more like 6 months before I could really kind of let loose and, do that power lift that I, bench press, No, I never did that. But to have the ability to do that and be released to do it, you need to consider your limitations, okay? So consult your doctor, consider your limitations. Now, assuming you've just done that, you just got back from the doctor, you walked in, you've turned this video back on and said, okay, now I can watch the rest of it. Here's what we need to do, okay? Number one, above everything, be proactive, okay? Be proactive. What I mean by that is you have to be your motivator. You can try to depend on your loved ones, on your family members, on your spouses, on your caregivers, on your team, on your rehab specialists. You can try to depend on those people to an extent to push you, to motivate you, to cause you to do this. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you right there, you are the one who will be proactive and will motivate yourself. So you got to set in your mind, it's a mentality that I'm going to get better. I'm going to do better. I'm going to fully recover. I'm going to be a person, maybe if you're like I was born with a congenital heart defect. I never did feel great, okay? But tell yourself, I'm going to be proactive in this. I'm going to be the one that gets up early in the morning if I have to, or goes to bed a little bit later at night, or stops and replaces an hour of television with an hour of walking out in the yard or walking down a street or somewhere. Be proactive. Determine what is safe to do in your exercise program with your physicians, and then be proactive and say, I'm going to do this. I will do this. No matter whether there's pain, no matter whether there's problems, no matter whether there's difficulties, no matter whether there's some uncomfort or some anxiety, be proactive that you are going to do. That's number one. Number two, I would advise you as well, not only be proactive, but be persistent. Okay, number two, be persistent. And that is, once you start this exercise program, don't quit. Don't get to a place in your mind or even in your physicalities where you say, look, I met this goal, I'm done, I quit. For me personally, again, I know my story's sort of kind of rare, but I was able to get up out of the bed post-transplant by the next day. I started walking the next day after transplant. Inside of that first week, I was walking miles, like multiple, 1, 2, almost 3 miles within the first week. Before I left the hospital, again, the same thing, walking miles, okay? And so it would have been easy for me to say to myself, you know what? I'm already walking miles. I've accomplished my goal. I've made it where I want to be. It would have been easy to say that, but I couldn't. I had to be persistent. I had to say, you've not arrived. You've not already made everything you can make. So I had to keep on going. So when you have those bad days, when you have those low times, when you have those times when you just don't feel like doing much, consider you feel like doing something, okay? It might not be getting out like I plan to do a little bit later today and going to a large park nearby and walking around the lake for 2 or 3 miles. It might not be that. It may be that you just pace the hallways in your home, whatever. But be persistent and do something every single day. Take your rest, take your recovery, but do something. Maybe do something really small, but do it anyway. Be persistent. Number 3, not only be proactive, be persistent, but you need to be pliable, okay? You need to be pliable. And what I mean by that is you got to be flexible, okay? I'm looking out this window. Can you see the window? Maybe I'll show you a picture out the window in a minute. I'm looking out this window over here, and I'm looking and saying, okay, it's about 60 degrees. That's perfect. I love that. But it's still damp. It's still wet. There's still a drizzle. Maybe I'm going to have to adapt to that. I hope not. I hope the rain and the clouds go away and I get out and do my 2 miles today or 3 miles. But if I can't, I've got to find a way to be pliable. I've got to adapt. I've got to be flexible to that. Again, that might include me walking up and down the halls of the house. That might include me getting in the car, driving over to the local what do they call that? We call it the Civic Center, really. What do you call it? The Recreational Center. And walking around their inside track or going to the mall or going to buy groceries or whatever. And just making sure that I make an effort to walk for that, to put in some of my time. I may not be able to do exactly what I planned, but I can be pliable in that. In addition to that, and the way I'm talking about pliable, you need to be pliable that when you are having the bad day, you don't have to do it all. You don't have to do everything. I think you need to motivate and push and push through some of the pain, but you don't have to do all that. Just do what you can do. That's the most important thing. So that's the first 3. Be proactive, be persistent, be pliable. Here's the last one. Be productive. Okay? Be productive. What I mean by that is make this matter, okay? Make the exercise program that you're involved in, make it make a difference in your life. Pre-transplant. Now, this is very rare. I understand that. This is very different. But pre-transplant, the day and night before my heart transplant, listen closely, my heart transplant, I walked 3 miles. 3 miles. Now, given that, I was on an IV medication going on 24/7 called Milrinone that was kind of my go-go juice, that kind of like my nitrous oxide in a race car or whatever. I understand that. It wasn't actually real. I didn't actually have the ability, but because of the medications that were on board, I did. So I walked 3 miles the day of and the evening of my transplant because I saw the need to keep on pressing. So easily, at the end of that, I could have gotten out of the hospital and went down to the rehab facility, had them run a check or two, challenge me to do this or that. And I could have said, I meet and exceed your expectations, your goals, so I don't need this. As a matter of fact, when they first came in, the little tidbit about my situation, when they first came in, I think it was on the 4th day after transplant, they did send to the rehab people. They stood me up out of bed, they saw me walk, and they even commented and even documented in my file, he doesn't need rehab, he's okay. No, I took advantage of it, and I'm glad I did. You just got to be productive. Don't stop because you are able or allowed to stop. My first experience on a treadmill at cardiac rehab just a few miles from here, I remember they put the monitors on me and all. They were monitoring me from the side, so I felt very safe in it anyway. But the nurse took me over the treadmill, and she said, Mr. Merle, we want you to walk 6 minutes. 6 minutes, not 6 miles. We want you to walk for 6 minutes. I almost laughed. I thought to myself, you can do way more than 6 minutes, and I could have easily just said, fine, I'll walk 6 minutes. I could have walked 6 minutes and took it to the house and never raised the bar, never tried to do better, never tried to get better and encourage myself to do more. Could have done that. I didn't do that. I was honest with her. I said, I think I can walk more than that. Just let me walk until I get tired. I think, again, I did 3 miles on a treadmill that day in a relative amount of time. In addition to that, They took me and showed me this machinery over on the other side of the gym. There's really a nice facility, swimming pools and all. And I said, hey, can I lift a few of these weights? And I determined in myself that I wanted to be productive. If I'm going to be here for 12 weeks like I was cardiac rehab, I might as well be productive. I might as well come out doing better and better and better and being strong. And that has to continue into this day. I've gotten a little lax, I've gotten a little lazy, but it has to continue unto this day. So just in recap and review, consult your doctor, consider your limitations. Once that occurs, be proactive, be persistent, be pliable, and be productive. That is your exercise program. You say, Jim, you didn't give any specifics. That's right. This is generic, but it will apply to you. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, this really means something today. Stay stronger.